Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the OnePlus 15. It starts at $899.99 with 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. The other option is $999.99 with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. It comes in 3 different colors. This one is Sandstorm, and you can see it's 512 gigabytes of storage with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Let's go ahead and open it up. So we'll pull these little pull tabs here. Open it up like that and see what we've got. So this is the first time seeing this phone myself in person. So in the box here, it says never settle, and let's see what we get included with it. So included with it, there's nothing here. Looks like we've got a safety guide, we've got a quick guide, and then it looks like we have an adapter for USB-A to USB-C for maybe transferring over your data. Let's set that aside. And we'll take out the phone. We'll look at that in just a moment, but it's a little bit bigger than I actually expected, at least based on pictures. And then inside, it looks like we've got our Super VOOC charger. So you can see here, Super VOOC, and it says power supply. And then, of course, it's available in the US market. We'll talk about charging in a little bit later. And, of course, we've got our typical cable. We've got USB-A to USB-C. So, again, we'll take a look at that. And then we've got a SIM card tool in the box that you can see there. So let's go ahead and set this aside and take a closer look at the phone. So we'll open it up here and take a look at the overall phone. We'll take off the little sticker on the back. And here is that Sandstorm color. And now, according to OnePlus, this is a micro arc oxidation finish, which is 3.4 times tougher and 1.5 times more scratch resistant. Now on the front, we have super thin bezels this time at 1.15 millimeters, and it looks like we get a pre-installed screen protector. If we take a look around the outside edge, we have our volume button, as well as our power sleep wake button and some antenna lines. If we take a look at the top, it looks like we might have a speaker up here, along with our microphone and more antenna lines. And then on the left-hand side, again, an antenna line and a new button. This button replaces the alert slider, and that's something that I'm not sure I'll be used to, but it's something that is programmable in this update. Also on the bottom here, we have our SIM card tray along with more antenna lines, some microphones, and speakers. Let's go ahead and take a look at the SIM card tray itself. We'll pop it out, see if we have anything else in here. Probably no expandable storage or anything like that, but it looks like we have a SIM card here. So we've got our tray here. It says SIM 1 and then SIM 2. So we've got dual physical SIM cards as well. Now, as far as the back of it, well, that's the new look here where they've changed the overall camera bump. So I think it looks pretty nice. It's a different look. And if we compare it with the OnePlus 13 that I have here, you'll see it's slightly shorter. So side by side, it's slightly shorter. It also looks like it might be slightly thicker, at least from the overall frame itself. So you can see that here, and maybe a little bit narrower as well this year. They've gotten rid of the round camera platter or whatever you want to call that. And then again, the sides look fairly familiar. So everything else is pretty familiar, but as far as that alert slider here, they've gotten rid of the physical slider and gone with a button this year instead. The new color is pretty nice. The ultraviolet looks really nice online at least. And then of course that black color looks great as well. Now this display is very nice as well. So let's go ahead and turn it on and we'll talk about the specs. So we'll power it up here. And this display is the first 1.5K display at 165 Hertz. So it's 2772 by 1272 with 450 pixels per inch. It's an LTPO display, 3200 Hertz display sampling, so it's supposedly super responsive, but it only goes up to 1800 nits. That's its only downside as far as that goes, but down to 0.5 nits if you enable reduce white point. So it's a little bit different with that. Before we set this up, the internal specs are a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. It also has 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X Ultra Plus RAM at 10,667 megabits per second. It uses the new Cryo Velocity cooling engine, and it also has a new dedicated Wi-Fi chip that's 50% faster and maintains a more reliable connection. There's also a new aerogel layer in between to help with cooling, and it's the first phone to use that, and it has a steel and graphite layer as well to keep the CPU cool. So supposedly it helps with charging and everything else. So let's go ahead and set this up, and then we'll talk about the battery. So we'll go into Oxygen OS, select our language, then we'll select where we're from, And then you have legal information. We have to tap next here. And it says set up using another device. We'll skip this for now just to get to the home screen, and then I'll set up Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is connected. It says getting your phone ready, and it will take just a moment. It says we can copy apps and data. We'll skip that. Again, we're just trying to get to the home screen quickly. It's checking for info, and it's probably going to ask me to sign in with Google. Again, we'll skip this for now. I can sign in a little bit later, and then of course we can place a SIM card in here, or we can use an eSIM as well. We'll skip this for now, and now we can set it up with a fingerprint unlock. So we'll go ahead and tap next, and we'll set up a numeric password. The password set, we'll tap done, and now we can set up a fingerprint. So it's just an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. There we go. A little bit too fast, and there's some really nice haptic feedback here as I'm setting this up. So pretty strong as far as that goes. So that may be a little bit improved over the previous generation. So we'll get this set up, and then we'll continue. So there's the fingerprint sensor. We'll tap done. And then, of course, we can use our face, or we'll just tap next. So again, we have to approve the use of Google services or disapprove any of those. And then it says Microsoft Copilot. So that's something we can use if we want to, but we don't have to. And we can join the Red Cable Club. We'll skip that for now. And you'll see recommended services such as Global Search allows you to search for apps, auto updates, and more. So we'll tap more, agree, and it says screen color mode, standard or neutral. So you'll see that here with this hot air balloon, it looks like. So use natural and bright colors. That's what I prefer. We'll tap next. And now we can use gestures or buttons. I prefer gestures, and then you can learn them as well. It says you're all set up. Let's go. So here's the home screen with the default wallpaper. And you'll see there's quick settings here. So if we swipe down, this looks a bit familiar if you're familiar with iOS, but instead of swiping down, you swipe side to side, and you'll see what it looks like there. And then we can swipe down from the other side for our notifications. It looks like we also have an update here as well. So we've got a system update we'll install in just a moment, but this gives you an idea of what the Home OS looks like. Pretty familiar as far as that goes. And if we push the button on the side here, we can set up the plus key. So unlock the plus key, and it says plus to mind space, sound and vibration, do not disturb. We can open the camera with it, flashlight, recorder, translate, screenshot, or nothing at all. So mind space is tap to recognize and save screen content, touch and hold to save audio. So you can sort of record what you're doing and then save that for later. So we'll just set it right now to maybe flashlight. We'll set that. And then if we go ahead and press it, we should have the flashlight. So works like you would expect there. Now, when it comes to the battery, let's go into settings. The battery in this is huge, and this should be a big advantage. This has a 7,300 milliamp hour dual cell silicon carbide battery using silicon nanostack technology for increased energy density. They also say that it will have 80% of its battery health after 4 years of use. Now, I'm not exactly sure how many cycles that is, but that's from the spec sheet. And it also supports 80-watt Super VOOC charging or up to 100-watt Super VOOC with their optional charger in the US. Outside the US, you should be able to get that no problem. 50-watt Air VOOC charging as well. And one of the really cool things I've seen this year with this phone is not only do you get the fast charging, but if you want to game with the phone, you can actually game using the charger at the same time, and it will bypass charging the battery. So we have a power saving mode, and you'll see the balanced mode says we'll have battery for 19 hours and 38 minutes. And then high performance is just 18 hours and 39 minutes. And then you have a super power saving mode, which will give you a few extra hours as well. Of course, I'll have to test all of this out, but let's plug it in. We're currently at 62% and see what we get. So if we plug it in here, it's charging now. You'll see it on the screen, and it just ramps up super fast with Super VOOC. So charging it this fast, but also having 4 years of battery health. Of course, you'd have to use it for 4 years to test it out, but that's super impressive if that's actually the case. And we'll unlock like that. That's a really nice animation they have there as well. So as far as the wallpaper goes, let's press and hold, and we can go to Wallpapers and Style. And under Wallpapers and Style, we can add a wallpaper, and you'll see there's some options here. So we have Classic, there's 5 different ones, and then we've got Oxygen OS, and then Sublime Grandeur, as well as Sleek, Aerial View, Light and Shadow, Composition, and Interactive. So if maybe we go to the blue one here, it's really nice looking. And then you have the ultraviolet, probably to go along with the different phone colors. And then, of course, some other ones. Some of these landscapes are very nice. And then we've got sleek as well. So whatever works for you, of course, we can change that back and we'll hit apply. So give it a second. We already were on this one, but now you'll see it moves as well. Now let me go ahead and install the system update and we'll be right back. The update installed. We're now on the October 1st Android security update, and you'll see we don't have an additional update. Now, one thing is we're already at 68%, so that installed pretty quickly. And if we go into our notifications here, you'll see there's a OnePlus 15 setup. We can remind later, maybe tomorrow, once I get it fully set up. Now, also one thing I wanted to mention is the overall IP ratings. This is IP66, IP68 for 2 meters for 30 minutes, also IP69 and IP69K for high pressure water jet resistance up to 80 degrees Celsius or 176 degrees Fahrenheit. You can take photos underwater with it, and it shouldn't damage the overall phone. It also has a new super precise gyroscope for gaming, and the cameras are updated as well. So on the front, we have a 32 megapixel camera, and then on the back, all of the cameras are 50 megapixels. So we have a 50 megapixel f1.8 main camera, a 50 megapixel f2.0 ultra wide, and a 50 megapixel f2.8 telephoto camera that has 3.5x optical zoom and 7 times cropping into the sensor. Now, if we go into the camera, you'll see that's the rear-facing camera, and we have a bunch of different options here. But if we go into video mode, this is pretty impressive. So if we go into our options, we have up to 8K, or we have 4K up to 120 frames per second. So it says best for fast-moving subjects. So you have 60 frames per second, which should be no problem. And we also have real-time tone mapping for video. We have a live LUT preview if you want to use LUTs for this. And also we have a Detail Max engine. There's no Hasselblad on this phone anymore, but it has an ultra clear mode. So if we go back into, let's try the photo camera here. We also have a master mode here with lots of different adjustments, and then pro or auto, and you can adjust everything from exposure to ISO to white balance. We'll go back to auto for now. And again, if we go into our options, we have face metering. We have a bunch of different options here. We can even show a histogram, which is nice. So if we want to take photos or video in specific conditions, we can do that. So you'll see we have portrait, text scanner. If we go into more, we have additional options here. So I need to use this a little bit more and see what it's all about. Also, they've updated this thanks to its overall cooling of the device. It can maintain 120 frames per second gameplay on games like PUBG, sustained with a minimum frame rate staying around 115 frames per second or above. So lots of great updates this year. Now, as far as the overall display, one thing I've always liked about OnePlus is they really take care as far as the overall eye wellness and things such as PWM. So we do have eye care, but I don't see anything specifically for PWM this time. So if we go into custom, for example, we have that display effect where it sort of gets rid of blue light. We have eye comfort reminders, but we don't have anything that says PWM this time. So that's a bit disappointing, but we'll have to check it out and see how much PWM it has, if any. So let's take a look at that right now. We'll just see if the display is flickering. So as you can see, with 240 frames per second slow-mo, the display is flickering even at brighter brightness levels as well. So that's something that's a bit disappointing. I would love to see an option for PWM to be turned off or DC dimming, similar to what iPhone has this year or what OnePlus has had before. So that would be something I would definitely like to see here. They've, of course, could add it with an update, but at this point, it doesn't look like it has it, unless I can't find it somewhere. Another option here is under battery that I noticed. So if we go under battery, we have an option for super power saving mode, but if we want high performance mode, it will perform best, but it may increase power usage and cause your device to heat up. Now, I've noticed already the device is warm. It's not hot to the touch, but it's definitely warm charging at this speed. You'll see we're already at 74% and it's working just fine. So you do have a bunch of different options for that. You'll see battery health here at 100%, and we have smart charging as well. So we have custom limits if we want to do that. We have 90% is set by default, 85, so we'll just leave it alone, let it manage itself, since they say it'll last 4 years. Now I'll go use this for a few days. Of course, it'll be instant for you, but I'll use it and then let me report back on what it's like to use. Now, I've been using the OnePlus 15 for about a week at this point. After the initial unboxing and setup that you saw just a moment ago, I started using this. I placed a SIM card in here, and I've been using it for things like Android Auto and every sort of thing such as social media and much more. Now, the first thing is the overall feel of the phone is great. This new coating feels very durable. I've bumped it into a few different things. It seems to be holding up without an issue, and it looks great overall. While this isn't my favorite color overall, most people I've shown it to have actually said it looks pretty great. They love the look of it, they love the feel of it, and have been very impressed with the overall coating. So definitely a really nice update as far as the OnePlus phones go. And as far as the buttons go, they're fairly clicky. No complaints there with the power sleep wake button. My only complaint, because I was so used to it, was the slider that we have on OnePlus phones to go through different modes such as do not disturb. We can go right in here and just do that quickly, no problem, but it is something that I miss having on the side, but of course we can assign this to whatever we'd like. Now the overall use of the phone is just super smooth. The new Snapdragon processor is crazy fast, no issues here. You'll see it never slows down. Whether you're going into the camera, maybe you're going into an application, maybe you're opening something simple, going back out such as weather, you'll just never see a slowdown, whether you're playing a game or just using it overall. Really no complaints. I don't play a lot of games on my phone, but really no complaints whatsoever when it comes to the overall speed. Battery has been super impressive as well. It has over 7,000 milliamp hours, and I've seen some comparisons online with the iPhone 17 Pro Max where it even beats that out, and it should beat it out by a little bit more, but in my normal use with balanced use selected, so if we go into our settings here, we go down to battery, I'm using balanced mode, and you'll see here that I haven't plugged it in for about 4 days. Now, the past couple of days have been light use, but I've used it with things such as Android Auto, I've used it regularly with social media, and you'll see over the last 7 days, there was some more use here, and then it just sort of tapered off. But I've been using it quite a bit on and off, except for the last couple of days, and it's been very great overall. And the nice thing is, I've only charged it twice in those few days. So typically, you just plug it in with the SuperVOOC charging, 30 minutes later, you have a full phone, and you're good to go. I think with full-time usage, you'd get about probably a day and a half out of this. No issues whatsoever. Better than the 17 Pro Max overall when it comes to that. You'll see we're currently down to 39%. Now, if we were in a more power-hungry mode, of course, that would change the overall usability of it and change the battery life, but I don't think many people would really mind, especially in high-performance mode if maybe you're playing a video game. Now, when it comes to signal, this might be one of my biggest complaints here where I'm on LTE and I have good signal strength, but because I'm using Google Fi, I'm not really having a lot of 5G availability. So it is working fine on LTE, but 5G isn't that great. But for example, if I bring in my iPhone Air that's on T-Mobile, which typically uses the same service, you'll see in the upper right there, I have 2 bars of signal where the OnePlus is full signal. So that's pretty great overall when it comes to strength. I just wish all the bands were available, and that could be a limitation of Google Fi as well. The display is okay, however, compared to an iPhone 17 Pro Max, for example, this is just not as bright. It's nice to look at, it's generally fairly good to look at, it's fast like I mentioned, but it's not as nice as one of the newest phones. If I compare it to one of the Samsung phones or an iPhone, I typically prefer those over this display. But it's good enough, most people won't notice, unless you're outside in very bright environments all the time and you need a super bright display. It's fairly bright, it's just not as bright as the competition. Now, we do have PWM on this phone. Unfortunately, you can see it at 120 Hz ProMotion. However, it doesn't seem to bother my eyes like previous OnePlus phones have. However, I wish they would have taken more care to add more settings for that. So if we go under display here, under display and brightness, we used to have a setting to sort of compensate for PWM or flickering of the display to control brightness. I don't see that here, but we do have things such as eye care and eye comfort, but we don't have the exact same option, or at least I wasn't able to find it. But either way, it's super fast. It's a joy to use as far as that goes, and the cameras are quite nice. Now, I will say that the cameras are good, but they're not as good as maybe video on some others, whether that's an S25 Ultra or an iPhone, but the camera overall is very nice to use. So let's take a look at a couple photos here, and you'll see the photos are generally good. We have some great zoom modes. In photos, we can zoom way in to about 120 times. I think the only complaint I have about the camera is the overall quality of the video. It just seemed a little bit grainy and not as high quality as others. Other than that, though, it's fully usable without an issue. front-facing video seems to be pretty good. You can see here the overall skin tones look about spot on, and this gives you an idea of their overall microphone quality. So hopefully it's pretty good. I haven't heard it myself, but let me know what you think of it in the comments below. But the overall usability of it's quite nice. It's definitely a great phone and something I can recommend, especially for those that want a unique experience that maybe you don't see in the United States as much or other places around the world. In the US, I don't see a whole lot of these, but when I do see them, I think it's something that I think that person probably knows what they're doing, because you don't see a whole lot of OnePlus phones. So it's something like a car that you see out in the wild that isn't something that everybody loves, but it's a sports car that they enjoy. I think of the OnePlus like that as well. If someone has a OnePlus, they probably know what it is and don't care what anybody else has. So overall, I think it's a great phone. Definitely recommend it. The only downside, like I said, is probably the overall camera when it comes to video. Everything else is about as good as it gets. So let me know what you think of it in the comments below. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.